thought we had jumped in.
Well,
into the
maybe
lifeboat.
you're right. We were just having such a brilliant conversation about helping yourself.
I mean, I wasn't here to talk about fluff. I want to go deep with you, Galina, and see where we're at, because this is the support chat that we always need when we buoy each other up and get realistic.
Yeah, I appreciate the realism. It helps me connect, and it's better than talking about the weather. There's that. But it's a common suffering that everybody has regardless of what's going on. We all have our own level of suffering, and trying to be a creative and being in this career where nothing is promised to you, being in any career where nothing is promised to you, which I could
Yeah,
argue is maybe any career, because even someone in the corporate world can think that they have stability and you
true,
don't.
true.
Did you ever work in corporate?
No, I've been a floater since I graduated college, came out to be an actress, and have been doing all the service jobs, trying to support that ever since. So no, I've not I've not had the chance to experience that life. But you did.
I did. And what's ironic is that it was always my worst nightmare growing up.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to speak disparagingly of people that work in cubicle jobs. There's a lot of really important things and meaningful things that happen in those settings.
Yeah.
But for me, I kind of accidentally landed in a cubicle job right out of school,
Uh,
even though I already knew about myself that that was not going to be an environment that I would have thrived in. And yet I accidentally fell into it, kind of had a panic attack, and then found comedy off of that because
oh.
I was spinning directionless. I
Yeah.
thought I wanted to be a real estate mogul growing up. I'll be honest with you. That was
Wow.
always the path that I thought I was going to take. I was so excited about house porn, as they say.
I
I
mean, you
like,
still could,
oh,
but
yeah, still love it. Loved touring houses, got my real estate license at like
wow.
18. Yeah,
Wow.
back in Ohio too. And then moved out to California and fell into an office job that I guess you could say was real estate related, in that
Uh-huh.
I was processing accounts payable for a property management company, which was nowhere near my vision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're in the same area, but you're not.
No, and there's certain personality types that just can't function in that kind of system where I felt like a cog. I worked for a huge company at one point
Mm-hmm.
where the owner, I think he owns a football team, he's got private jets and all that.
Oh
And it's like,
man.
cool, do your thing, but please don't pretend you care about me in any sense of the word. Like, the second you have to lay people off or do
Yeah.
anything, it's my neck on the line no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
they don't care about you.
Which is so unfortunate when you're like, I'm giving my life and my hours to this, and it doesn't care about me back.
No, and it's so many hours too. It's this weird structure that I don't know if it's just America or if it's primarily here or primarily just in capitalist nations, where there's this arbitrary 8 to 5 when you can easily get a lot of these jobs done in, like, my last corporate job. I was completing things in about 3 to 4 hours
Yeah.
and then getting absolutely roasted that I was sitting there with nothing to do. And it's like, do you want me to be less efficient and make 3 hours of work last for 8 hours?
Uh-huh.
Or do you want me to sit here and pretend I'm working, which is what I would do a lot of the time? It
And if
just,
you tell them that, they'll
yeah.
probably just heap more work on you, and you'll be like, oh, great, I'm doing twice as much.
And at that point, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not paying me enough to do that amount of work. I
Right.
am giving you, it was at that point I was making $22 an hour. I'm like, I am giving you more than $22 an hour worth of work. So, like, don't you come here and pile more shit onto my desk
Yeah.
and tell me that I need to try to work harder so I can get to a position where, oh, golly gosh, maybe I'll be making 10 grand more a year. It's not going to be life changing money.
Right. That's so frustrating because I do have empathy for like business owners and how you have to look out for everything and pay for everything, and maybe you have like a really small margin, so maybe you can't pay your employees more, but when it's something big that is designed to be just a behemoth, like, and could pay you more and give you a better quality of life, but instead make you do the job of two people and like can't let you have shorter days. Like everyone's quality of life would be so much better if the people who have the ability to give you a better quality of life would just say, yeah, here's a little bit more per hour, or here's a few hours less per day to do, or we're going to hire two people to do that job and spread it around when so many people need jobs rather than one person being overworked. excuse me. Oh, that sounded like I got emotional. I think I just choked on my own spit.
But it's worth getting emotional about because it does happen where I don't understand again those arbitrary hours of like you really need me to clock in at 8 a.m. You really need me to be here till
Right.
5 o'clock. You
Right.
really need me at jobs which the pandemic proved how many things could be remote, and yet companies just dig their heels in and force people to come back because they're paying these like egregious lease prices on buildings
Yeah.
and digging their heels in. And I'm like, not only am I spending physically 40 hours a week here at a job where a sliver of my soul dies every time I walk through the
Oh,
door, but then on top of that, it was like an hour and a half in traffic every day. Just time gone.
yeah. And the only way around it is to quote unquote be your own boss, find your own way, make your own small business, and everyone makes it look so easy on social media because everyone is their own small business now, but it's like people have forgotten that running a business used to be incredibly looked upon as known, hard, difficult thing. You better be ready if you want to take it on. And now it's just taken as for granted that like, oh sure, well that's the alternative, so go do it. Running a business is hard.
Running a business is hard and it's still hard, but because of social media, people only post the good stuff. Nobody's
Right.
posting the bankruptcy. Nobody's, videoing themselves crying because maybe they can't make payroll that month and they're leaving all those people to drown
Yeah.
essentially because they're following their dreams and it's really hard. And I don't know how many businesses fail. I know it's incredibly tough to try to start like a restaurant or something like that, but
Right.
nobody posts the honest, gritty, nasty side of being an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you, nothing teaches you about who you are more than trying to start a business.
Oh, yeah, when you're that person in that position. I feel the same way about running a comedy show. And when my friends run shows that actually pay us a decent amount versus keeping it for themselves or not trying to sell tickets or whatever. And it's like, oh, the people who actually get in that position and treat us the way we wish we were treated, but are one of us as well. Did that make sense?
Definitely made sense.
Thank you.
There's like, yeah, if you're charging for tickets,
Yeah.
absolutely need to be paying your performers.
Yeah.
If it's a free show, I get it. Sometimes you just need the stage time, and comedians are, it's our gym.
Right.
Unfortunately, we can't practice our thing in solitude. I can't
Yeah.
tell my jokes to my dog and expect an honest reaction or tell them in the mirror. It's like, could be helpful for memorization, but our art is weird that way where, unlike a musician who can just strum their instrument in the garage
Yeah.
and genuinely get better at it and put
Yeah.
the hours in solitude, we cannot. We need that feedback.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that trade off though. For a while, I held a hard line, probably maybe 2 years ago, where I was like, okay, I'm only going to do paid shows, even if it can only be $10, whatever, something for my gas makes me feel better. And like, it has to make sense business wise. And now I've kind of backslid into, yeah, that draw of like exposure or networking or good opportunity, quote unquote, whatever that means, is now drawing me back in of like, I guess I have to make the money elsewhere so that I can take these unpaid opportunity, quote, opportunities and just see what happens because we can't afford to miss anything based on our bottom line.
I know. It's just, um, who's that Greek god? Syphilis? Not
Syphilis?
syphilis.
Sisyphus?
Sisyphus? Thank
I
you.
think Sisypheus? Is
No, I
that,
think
are
you're
we
right. I think
adding
it's
syllables?
Sisyphus. That sounds
Sisyphus.
right. But anyway, I just bring that up to be like, he was the one that was punished by having to push a boulder up a hill just to
Yeah.
have it roll back down. And I feel like
Yes.
that's such a good analogy for pursuing an art where people pay you in quote unquote exposure.
Yeah. And you can't hold your value the way people are like, no, know your worth. And it's like, well, I can know my worth, but also not eat this month. At some point, I got to like, I don't know, do something and hope for the best.
Such a balancing act. I do have to point out that we're both wearing pleather pants, which is a moment.
Yay! I know there's a lot of leather happening because we're boss bitches sending
Mm-hmm.
subliminal messages to the world
That's right. And I thought about it too, and I'm like,
because we're on
sitting
leather
in leather.
couches. Squeak, squeak, squeak.
In leather pants,
You're gonna hate me
squeaking it
while
up.
editing.
Swamp butt. No, it'll be fine.
No, these lights aren't hot. This is great. No
They're
swamp
not.
ass. No swamp butt
Absolutely.
happening. Sorry, clean. No swamp butt happening.
You don't have to be clean on this.
Thanks.
Yeah. YouTube can't demonetize that which is not monetized.
Yeah. You're not making any money on this anyway. How do you keep your spirits bolstered? Do you have like a practice that you do to keep like that you of self-talk or reaching out to friends, or do you let yourself feel the bad day spirals and just lean into it?
First of all, great question that I'm supposed to be asking. This is my podcast.
Hey, I came here for answers, Galina.
You're just teeing me up like I was going to volley that at you, but okay, I will take
No,
the
I'm just more
reins.
desperate for the tips.
So it's both. Okay,
Mhm.
so I spend a ton of energy, almost too much energy. I wish I could just wake up and be less introspective some days
Yeah.
because God, what a relief that would be.
Mhm.
I go to therapy. That's a big one.
Nice.
Been in therapy for a long time. I am not particularly great at consistently meditating, but I do try here
Yeah.
and there. And if I can't fully meditate, then what I do is I try to start the morning with a meditation at least going that I'm like listening to some positive affirmations while I'm
Nice.
like brushing my teeth, getting ready to take my dog outside. And
Yeah.
I also let myself feel my feelings because I didn't for probably the first 29 years of my life. And therapy taught me to feel those feelings. And oopsie daisy, turns out I have them.
Yeah.
So now I feel them, and I would say I cry like 1 to 2 times a month. Not scheduled, because that would really
Love
be
it.
another level, but things just get to me, and I'm a human, and I let them get to me, and I
Nice.
do what is my interpretation of processing.
Can I ask what took so long to break into the feelings? Because I feel I'm similar, but that might have be for different reasons.
Yeah. Oh, happy to disclose. So, being from Soviet Russia, part of it.
Yeah, that seems like a big
Yeah.
chunk.
Not exactly a culture that upholds feeling feelings. I
Yeah.
very much grew up in this rigid feelings are weakness, being sad is bad for your body, according to my mom. Like, don't get upset because the stress on your body is going to be worse than that. It's just processing feelings is just not a thing in my family. It's completely foreign. And then you take that Soviet upbringing and then you quadruple it with then a Midwestern upbringing because I grew up in
Yes.
Ohio and another culture that is infamous for suppressing feelings.
Yeah.
And a lot of people there drink in a way that for sure is alcoholism, but nobody questions it.
Right.
Not to say I haven't myself struggled with alcoholism. I've certainly seen it, but there's definitely a lot of feelings being suppressed in the Midwest. So just that culmination of things, and I really just thought I was this strong person that like didn't feel those types of feelings, and then it just kind of came to a crescendo. I had a breakup that affected me in a way that it shouldn't have in relation to how long and deep that relationship was. It actually was pretty short-lived.
Mhm.
And maybe it wasn't the morning of that relationship. Maybe that was just like the catalyst for, oh, whoa, I'm so affected by this.
Yeah.
So I went to therapy, and all of a sudden we started digging up all these patterns of not feeling feelings and not being given any kind of room to interpret them.
Yes, I'm so glad you got there.
Me too. It's a lot of work, and the work never stops.
Oh yeah, and I just recently split with my therapist because for a while she had reduced her rate, which was too attractive to drop because she was like, "No, no, you need to keep going with me." And I was like, "Okay." But I just didn't feel like any work was getting done. And yeah, it's still nice to have someone validate your feelings every week, but I'm like, that's friends could say, "No, you're right, poor you." Whereas I need someone to be like, "Yeah, you are self-sabotaging in this way. How do we stop it?" or whatever.
Once you kind of have those patterns pointed out to you, I don't think people should be in therapy forever necessarily,
Yeah.
unless maybe you feel like that's helpful. I can see the argument of that it becomes a crutch or that it becomes more hurtful than helpful, maybe if people are doing it. Like, I'm only at once a month right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I used to be, I was at weekly for many years, and while that served its purpose, I wish I could kind of be maybe bi-weekly right now, but I'm just once a month, but I still feel like there's these insane breakthroughs that I'm having every month, so I
Wow.
can't stop going yet.
I love those moments.
Yeah, me too.
When you stop having the breakthroughs, you're like, "Oh, I
Mhm.
guess it was an okay session." But I remember those feeling so good.
I haven't had that yet, and it was so crazy. I had during my last therapy session, and again, it's like I'm constantly rehashing this same, oh, my family didn't give me room to feel feelings, and not to speak disparagingly of them, but it really is just such a cultural thing where I don't think things like even get in with
Mhm.
them. I don't think they even penetrate
Yeah.
how calcified this like protect yourself thing is.
Calcified, great word for
Thank
it.
you. Big
Yeah.
SAT word.
I love it. I love good vocabulary. Taylor Swift's last album, I was like, this is like reading a book. This is great.
But I had found out that the building that I lived in Ukraine for the
Hmm.
first 5 years of my life, and that building that had been in my family for about 25 years, was recently hit with a drone. It's gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and first of all, nothing has made me feel more Ukrainian than that. I've been I've had to compartmentalize my feelings about the war because when it broke out, I was just gorging on everything I could find. I was reading every news article. I was listening. BBC has this podcast called Ukraine Cast. I was listening to that every day and hearing all these stories, and it was wrecking me. And so the only way that I could just deal with that, because I can't do anything, was
Right.
just to shut down, compartmentalize, put it away, not look at it anymore. It was affecting my functioning. And every once in a while, I'll just kind of touch base and see what's going on, but mostly I try to stay out of it. But then I learned about 2 months ago that our building had been bombed, and it had been a lifetime dream of mine to like go back there and visit it at some point. But the way that my mom shared that information with me was as if like she was talking about a weather event. She said it so casually. She was like, "Well, it wasn't even our side of the building. It was like 138 that was bombed and we were 134." And I didn't even have space to digest this information. And I held it for about a month and I kept thinking about it and I kept actually laughing because it was so ridiculous to me. And because I couldn't
Yeah.
even begin to let the seriousness of it like penetrate me.
Yeah.
And finally it reached a crescendo and just started crying violently. And I cried about it in therapy and I told my therapist, I'm like, I can't believe this has taken me a month to stop laughing about this and to actually start processing it in a way that I can heal. So it's that kind of stuff where I'm like, oh, I can't even process these things that are so devastating because the people that they should also be devastating are not getting devastated by
Well,
it.
yeah, plus they're the unique people who can offer you the space to do it and they're not, whereas try as we might, we can't understand what you're going through, feeling like your people are somewhere else and you can't help them. Like there's so much about that we cannot understand and probably feeling shitty hearing comedians make horrible Ukraine war jokes and bomb jokes and it's like, yeah, of course easy for us to make jokes cuz we're over here and you being half comedian and half citizen like wanting
Hmm.
the only people who could understand where you're literally geographically coming from and what that building means to you are not allowing you that space to do that. So where else can you find that understanding? That would be so hard.
Right. And no one has more dark Ukraine war jokes than I do. That's the
I
thing.
really appreciated that, actually. You at my show, I was so proud of you. I was like, I think I put you in the exact perfect spot.
For sure. And it's so funny because I spent the majority of my comedy career never making jokes about my background,
Yeah,
never talking about it because I was so afraid of boxing myself in. And I didn't want to just be the Ukrainian comic or the Russian comic. Like, I
sure.
didn't want to be, I'm sure there's work if I really, really leaned into that and I wanted to be that guy, but there's so much more to me than that. So I
Yeah,
really didn't want to box myself in and only start doing that type of material.
yeah.
Because I'm like, oh no, God forbid, I end up being hacky and I end up being the person that just makes these like Soviet jokes all the time. But now I can't not talk about it.
Right, and you're talking about it from a very real place, not just I mean, it is a hard balance, I feel like, having enough material on something that could be your brand specifically so that you break out with some sort of recognizable marketing package, and at the same time be like, "No, I have other things to talk about. This is not my complete identity," but I think your jokes are you've made them so clearly Galina stamped that
Thank
like
you.
no one else could make them.
Thanks. That's a
The
really sweet
rubble joke.
compliment.
Oh my god.
The rebel
Oh,
joke,
I
yeah.
love when I come up with a joke that I'm like, that's a Drew Landry joke. It's not like I'm stealing his joke, but
Hmm.
like the meter of it or like the just the flavor of it reminds me of someone. I'm like, ooh, I love that my friends have such distinctive stamps in their style. Julia Austin, I'll write a joke.
Hmm.
Boyfriend girlfriend that sounds vaguely like her husband wife travails, and I'm like, ah.
I love that. Do you think that you've evolved over the time that you've been doing stand up? Did you like try to emulate anyone when you started before you grew into your own?
There were times where I would watch a comedian and be like, I love that structure. I wish my brain put things together that way. So I would write a bit totally about my own stuff, but try to structure it in that way, like Eliza or Taylor or Whitney. Um, or I'll look at patent storytelling or someone doing something silly and be like, oh, I really want to just try to be sillier with it. So I have tried to emulate people, but I hopefully have never tried to be someone and copy their style. I'm still finding mine. For the most part, I find I like fall into kind of angry sharpness, but I don't have Eliza's uh I don't know, like evidence to back it up, so I'm trying to remind myself to keep it fun and silly and not go too dark down the anger hole because
Hmm.
that's really the reason I want to get up and talk is because I'm angry about something and want to point it out, but I'm like, it's comedy, Maxie. It's comedy.
And now I want to ask you what you asked me. Like, what do you do with the emotions around it? What do you have a processing system?
Kind of like spurts. I go in spurts where I'm like really motivated and really high on life about what we do. And then other times where I'm just so down about the hopelessness of it all that I just let myself lean into it. And I'm like, okay, tonight's the night I shouldn't go to the mic because it's not going to be my best energy and I'll just recuperate and then give it a day or two, see someone have a great set or something that really like sparks the fire again or have a great talk with friends at a mic just about the real life stuff we're going to through and hear everyone else say, "No, I'm struggling with it too," and then that gets me back up. But I definitely go in waves. Tidal waves. High
Tidal
highs,
waves.
low lows.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
got to learn to ride them. The
Yeah.
ultimate allegory.
Yeah, I feel like such a downer whenever I come in and I'm just like, well, there's no way to make that happen unless this happens. And so ultimately, like, there's no point. And I'm really just trying to like find strategies in that moment. Like, have someone be like, oh, I get that, but here's what we could be doing. And be like, oh, that makes sense. So I'm really just like bat sonar trying to get something bounced back to me when I bring up these problems. I don't want to just be the person, the Eeyore, but I'm just always hoping that someone will hear it and be like, I get it, but here's what we could do. Because I haven't thought of any of those things.
What do you do for self help? Do you like read books? Do you meditate?
I had a meditation practice or of like a couple minutes a day, a morning or morning pages. I've really enjoyed doing that. And then I don't know when the like really exciting initial impact seems to wear off. Like the first few times you do it, you're like, oh my God, everything feels so electric because of this. And then once it kind of evens out, I let it slip off sometimes just because it falls in my prioritization. And now that I'm living with someone, I also find it harder to like keep a morning ritual where I can just be in my thoughts and kind of puttering around in my head and like process things slowly because I'm kind of on and like aware of the other person. And I feel bad because I think that's just the nature of living with someone, of an awareness that they're around, but it definitely like impacts my day and my thought process to have to give that energy to someone else. So I don't know. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. Well, you're not going to be like, sorry, honey, I have to do my morning pages. Could you go fuck off
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
bit?
And yeah, exactly. And then be like, you know, in fairness, point out that he's not holding me back or stopping me from doing those things, that he wouldn't mind if I did those things. And I'm like, yeah, but are you not understanding the like reality of another human being in your close space? You're gonna defer to them rather than being like, excuse me, I got to go shut my door and like have some mental. It seems counterproductive to be like, I'm going to go get some zen by shutting you down. I'm going to go be mentally healthy by not interacting with you. I don't know. It seems like it doesn't.
It's not conducive to the health of the relationship.
Yes, the
It
human
could
should
be,
come
yeah.
first, it feels like, rather than the arbitrary rules. And so many of my stand-up rules or things I want to do for like, this is when I'm at my sharpest, or this is how I'd like to be most of the time. Those things directly conflict with like being a good partner, in my opinion. And I know I'm judging myself about whether I'm good or not more than he is, but it's still hard to hold the line when my desires are arbitrary and just they're desires. They're not like, I'm not going to die if I don't write today, but like I would really prefer to write today.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the morning pages from The Artist's Way?
I did. Well, from a acting class that recommended The Artist's Way. Yeah. Have you read through that whole thing?
I have. I should have listened to it instead of reading it. I feel like it was a little. I don't want to insult it because I got a lot of value out of that book, but some of it is hard to digest.
Mm-hmm.
And my latest thing for the last year or so, I've realized that I do better when I listen to self-help books and keep my actual reading to entertainment.
Oh, because yeah, you do process it differently when you listen versus read. And I haven't attempted the listening yet because I'm assuming I won't like it won't impact me the same way. But that would be an easier way to get through them so you can get the help you're looking for. Yeah, that's probably smarter because that was a long, dense read.
It was, yeah. It was I think I've since listened to it, and now there's been self-help books where I've listened to them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just 6 hours or something, and I'm like, let me go back and listen to this again, whereas I would never physically read it again.
Finish the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold for spritz.
Yes, take a second. Open that.
Cheers.
Any good self-help books that you've read lately?
I love self-help books. I have so many, and I'll go down
Dude,
a
me too.
wormhole on
Let's do
Amazon.
it.
Oh my God, I have so many. And then when they like just hit you in the right way and it's exactly what you needed in that moment, and you're like, oh, I needed to read this now. And people say, you know, what a scam they are. But like, if you don't have a person telling you the words you need to hear, I remember Big Magic being, of course, so cliche, but so transformative for me because it just felt like a warm middle-aged woman sitting me down and here kind of maternally saying the tough love I needed to hear and like also encouragement. And I was like, yeah, this felt really good.
Do you remember what it was?
I think one of my main takeaways was just like, you have to show up for the magic to happen. Like, you can't hide away. You have to do your part and meet the universe halfway by at least creating some movement. It doesn't mean you have to have it all mapped out or like do it great once you get there, but just show up. And that's the part you can just bare minimum. And that would get me to the shows, get me to the mics, get me to just at least give myself a chance of letting it snowball into building on that rather than hiding away and feeling sorry for myself and like just wanting to stay in a bunker.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I know what you mean by people say, oh, they're all a scam. What I've gotten out of it is that the more different self-help books I read, I feel like, and I mean this in a good way and also a bad way, but every book is the same book. Do you notice this?
So many times.
Every book is the same book where, and it's nice. I'm also that person that maybe I need certain messages. It's like, yeah, conceptually, oh, I understand that the whole advice of this book is you have to prioritize hard things. You have to make time for hard things and get them out of the way and eat the frog first and all that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Every book says that, but maybe I do need to hear it 8 different times from 8 different authors for it to finally break through.
To be like, oh, this is a common thought. This isn't just like some authors wacky, like, do this. Okay. Like, won't really. Like, for real. Hide your vibrators when you're podcasting.
Not my mother. Mother, I'm podcasting.
Mother! Maybe she's like, Galina, I'd finally like to talk
need to put the phone
about the building.
down here so in case it vibrates. It's you can't hear it
She's
on the
leaving a
mic.
voicemail right now that's like, Galina, you were right. That was a big deal. I'm so sorry. And also eat the frog. Everything you needed to hear, boom,
Yeah.
that voicemail's gonna be magic.
My mom's calling me to be like, listen, before you talk shit about me on your podcast, I just want you to know I just started feeling feelings this morning.
I just started feeling feelings, and I can forgive you for anything except for if you share this information on your podcast. Oopsie.
She does listen.
Does she? Hi, Mrs. Rivina.
I don't know how much
Can I
she
come play with
listens to.
Galina?
But yeah, I've been on a kick of manifesting books and spiritual books, and
Yeah.
even those all end up having the same message, just in different words.
Here's my one gripe with some like manifesting and visioning I guess beliefs is that like I find myself finding myself to blame when I didn't think positively enough about something, or I attracted this myself because I was thinking what I don't want rather than what I do want, and that was just attracting more of it. Or it kind of feels sometimes like it's putting the responsibility on me for why things are going poorly. So instead of being able to be like, ouch, things have been rough, it's like, well, you did this, Maxi, and it's your fault things aren't getting better because you're not sitting down and finding a way to write out affirmations that are going to turn this around. Like putting the accountability in my hands so much also feels like it's I don't know. It's I guess that's free will. You have the power to make your life better and make your life worse. And I just don't want to hear that I'm the reason that it's not getting better because I could have been doing more.
That's a very valid argument against manifestation. It is. It's super valid, because then if you're telling me that I'm drawing in all the good things, then you're also telling me that I'm drawing in all the bad things. And
Yeah.
it's an inevitability of life that bad things are going to happen.
Yes.
And that's where I think this comes from, where a lot of the manifesting girlies are also the same girlies that then believe in like Mercury retrograde, because they'd rather blame
it on
the
Mercury.
planets. Because God forbid we take accountability for ourselves. But the funny thing about Mercury retrograde, I think I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson explaining that Mercury doesn't actually retrograde because planets don't move backwards.
Yeah.
It's just an illusion from back in the day. Galileo or whoever was watching planets, from what they could see, it kind of looked like it was moving backwards.
Yeah.
Just because of its position in orbit, but it never retrogrades. Sorry, girlies.
So, but maybe it's just too long of a phrase to be like, Mercury's doing that thing again where it looks like it's retrograding, but really just an illusion.
Yeah, it's just easier to swallow. Mercury retrograde, and it's like, well, sometimes planes are delayed. Sorry.
Can we just go back to believing in Mountain Olympus and a lot of human angered gods?
There's something to it. I appreciate having a spiritual place to put things to make sense of things that don't make sense otherwise.
Yeah, a junk drawer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because we can't take the blame all on ourselves. There's times I know I can't take credit for everything. So, like, why should we also have to take the blame for everything?
I know. I realized I was having this discussion with Omid Singh earlier that, I do sit down and meditate here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I've journaled, I've morning paged, I've done all the things.
Yep.
I've washed my hands with cinnamon and sugar because some girl with 18 rings on did it. I don't know.
To do what?
To bring things. I even did it. I had my friends do this like goofy, and again, they like, worst case scenario, I'm retraining my brain to think positively, which is not a bad thing no matter what.
True.
Even if I manifest 0 things in direct correlation to going, I am wealthy, I am a big booty hoe, whatever it is I'm saying. Worst case scenario, I've reprogrammed my brain to be positive, and there's something to be said about like energetically bringing that in. Whether I believe the quantum physics aspect of it or not, like TBD, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. But there was this like It was 420, so there was marijuana involved.
This last one?
This last one.
Ah.
And this last one, because it was 42024, it was a palindrome. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of
Ah.
special. I
Yeah.
do kind of get a little bit giddy. You know, I make a wish when it's 12:34 on the clock. I have my little ritualistic things
Yeah.
that I do because they're harmless, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, we should just write a list of things that we want, be very specific. And so I wrote a list down and then washed my hands with cinnamon and sugar. We'll see.
I don't think there's I think the time, it's I hate doing that, writing down what you want or specific goals, but I think there is value to it. Like everything just it's like a mission statement. Things just start
Hmm.
aligning towards that because you're focused instead of scattered, and like cinnamon and sugar notwithstanding, I think it could still be useful to you.
It's true. It's that worst case scenario of, if nothing, you've become crystal clear on what your mission is. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I think that some benevolent force is going to draw anything in because I chanted it X amount of times instead of this many times, but
Right.
it's making sure that like I'm staying focused in my heart and in my head about what it is that I'm saying I want. Yet, at the same time, I have to learn to be happy without any of those things,
True.
because none of the outside shit is ever going to bring that in.
Right.
That's the tough part, is putting your happiness in some external thing. The goalposts will just keep moving, and
Right.
I'll get that thing, and then I'll have to remember, oh, I said I would be happy when I got blank, and now
Right.
I have blank. Am I happy all the time? I said I wanted to live by the ocean and that I'd always be happy. I live by the ocean now. Am I always happy, or do I need to
Right.
fucking do something in here?
Right. That's part of like my recent thing of like not just getting through a stand-up show and hoping that it is a stepping stone to something else or being seen or whatever. Now that I know that that doesn't like rocket you into anything, like trying to enjoy the process. Everyone says enjoy the journey, but like now I really am trying to get some value for myself out of going to a show or doing XYZ, and not just think of it as a means to somewhere. Like right now, I get to enjoy hanging out with you, talking to you, that I never get to do, uh, as opposed to the days where I might be like, oh, good, guesting on a podcast. Well, then that'll give me more Instagram material to get seen. And then people want me on other podcasts just so that I can spiral up and feature for so and so. And it's like, it's got to be for the sake of the thing itself.
It's so hard not to get carried away in those things, and you have to be. Uh, it wasn't like this when I started. It wasn't about becoming a big ticket item online. And now it's almost all the value now is in how many followers do you have, because that translates to ticket sales
Yeah.
allegedly, and no one wants to touch you if you don't have that platform already, which it's made, I feel like, industry really lazy, where now they want you to do everything and then they're going to come in and take 10%, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
excuse me, for what? Like, I've been over here grinding away for a decade,
Yeah.
and it was not that when I started. When I started, everybody was like, just get funny, just get funny. The
Yes.
the everything rises to the top. The cream rises to the top is what they would say.
Yeah.
And that's still true, that you have to be funny, because you can amass 1 million followers and go tour and put on a shitty show, and guess
Right.
what? None of those people are buying a second ticket.
Right.
And I always want to sell a second ticket, right? So
Yeah.
like, I will try to prioritize actually getting my skills in. But the funny thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is the bigger your platform gets, the more mean comments you're dealing with, and the
Oh,
more
yeah.
that becomes now a burden on your mental health, and nobody tells you how to
Yes.
deal with that.
Right?
Nobody tells you how to process, this didn't perform as well as I thought it would. 100 people said something nice, but this one person made this scathing remark, and now I'm going to think about it for 24
Yes,
hours.
and it gives you this watcher of yourself on stage next time you go up of like, did I say something wrong I shouldn't have in that? No, I think I can defend it both structurally as a joke and mm, ethically, that I wasn't actually trying to tear this person down. I was making a joke about this aspect, but that person online seemed really offended. And like, now I don't know if everything I say is being taken the wrong way or people thinking too hard about it. That's where a live crowd is like such a relief to get in front and like be hesitant to say a joke that didn't do well online, and then they laugh and you're like, ah, right, when you don't have all day to sit around and dissect it at face value, it's a joke. Great.
Yeah, and so many of the people who are even taking the time to make mean comments. They themselves are not content creators at all.
Right.
So they have no idea what it's like for us to be so vulnerable. And it's like, I'm a human being no matter what. If you
Yeah.
tell me something so mean, it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, I know you're just doing that because you're in such a place of hurt that you'd
Yeah.
rather say something mean about me than like get out of your mom's basement or whatever it is that your hurdle is. Because I really don't think any happy people are the ones that are
Right.
out here making these kinds of comments. But still, it's like, there's no escaping it. It's like, no matter what, if you have any visibility online, you're
Yeah.
gonna get hateful comments.
Yeah, there's no training course for that.
Nope.
And I don't know how Taylor Swift does that. Sorry to bring her up again, but like that is something I admire about no matter what she's like behind the scenes. I don't care if everyone's like, oh, that's a facade. She's a real bitch. I don't care. She seems to carry herself with grace despite the slings and arrows of having no mentor to help lead through that kind of absolute shit that would destroy my mental health and everything people say about her that you couldn't avoid hearing. And this goes from any celebrity. It's like I feel badly for them as if I'm on their level. I'm like, girl, I know what it's like. Miley, I feel so bad. You know, you had your embarrassing moments caught. At least my college years were anonymous. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry. It's like, she does not need my sympathy. But yeah, it's hard to come back. Like you said, it's someone who has the time to do that. And so clearly doesn't have much going on in their lives. And it's like, very difficult when you're attacked to not come back with a hateful fear response and perpetuate it. I try to keep my high school friend Kirk in my head because he's just got such like a lovely roll off his back response to things that like I respond in my Kirk voice. If I do respond, I try really hard to be like, yeah, that was a pretty lazy joke. Thanks for noticing, or whatever. Like, I can get quite lazy sometimes. Thanks for catching that. Or like, whatever it is, just to put it behind me because I can't not think about it
Right.
otherwise.
Yeah. Do you like Brene Brown?
I did read one of her books. So I can't say I know her whole works,
Hmm.
but yeah,
I have a
the
little quote. Okay.
shame.
Yes.
Let's
I know
hear
it,
it.
Pinto. This is so great because we ended up talking about this.
Self
Okay.
help
Yes.
or
Okay.
courage?
It's actually about vulnerability and
Nice.
perfectionism. So she said, perfectionism is a self destructive and addictive belief system that fuels this primary thought. If I look perfect and do everything perfectly, I can avoid or minimize the painful feelings of shame, judgment, and blame. Ugh, Brene.
Brene, people
Brene.
expect us to be perfect just
Yeah.
because we're quote unquote, and we're not even really public figures, but you know, we're out there, so they assume we are. Someone in backwoods, wherever, assumes we're friggin' celebs out here because our faces are on social media, whatever. So they think they can do it to us and we can take it because we've got mansions or whatever they believe about us. But yeah, it's like they hold us to a standard of perfection when we say a joke that's off color, or even if we intend it and we're like, no, I stand behind it. But they're like, that's not perfectly clean for everybody or the way Jesus would have wanted it. I
You're
don't
using
know.
such tame examples too, where those comments, I'd rather get that than some of what I get. And I get some of that too, but it's like I had posted a very mild, not incendiary, nothing, like a nothing
Yeah.
meme thing to YouTube. I posted it while I was like in line for a sandwich for lunch, and I get to the counter and I check my email, and there's already an email in there like, you're a cunt.
Someone just rattles that off.
Yes.
They forget you're human.
They completely forget you're human or it's a game to them. And I know that the answer is just to not read the comments, but I'm not at a level where I can't read. There's not
Right.
that many of them.
Yeah.
I can't just not see them. It would be impossible
Right.
at this point.
Right.
Like, yeah, if I were getting them in the tens of thousands of droves of comments, maybe it'd be easier to not read them because I could just delete them. But when it's like one an hour,
Yeah. No, I got time.
I got time to be called a cunt.
Oh, hey, at least that's pretty generic. It's not
Yeah.
like pointing out anything specific about you, except for maybe your cunt, but
I know. So it's like I get stuff. I got one the other day that was, and YouTube is the meanest.
are they coming from a particular type of person or
It's
just
always
like
a
across the
man.
board?
No,
Okay.
it's always a man.
Cool.
Yeah. Just a clip, like a 30-second crowd work clip, and then the comment is something along the lines of, "Oh, that guy carried the show." No shit, it's a crowd work clip.
Yeah.
And that was not the show. That was a 30-second snippet. But just again, it's not like that person. They're out to get you. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter the accuracy of what they're saying. They're just out to get you. And I can't put myself in the place to even sympathize with that kind of person because I myself have never had an urge. If I don't like a piece of content that I see,
You
I
move
just
on.
scroll.
Yeah.
So what is this thing of let me see if I can ruin this person's day and just leave this nasty comment from my private profile with, no
Yes. You
picture, some kind of
coward.
avatar.
Yes. What burns me is like those are probably the same guys that if I post like a saucy photo will be the first to like want to murder me and then fuck my dead body. I don't
Mhm.
know. They'll be like you're a whore, but I do you,
Yeah.
and that's it's like ugh, I feel so dirty right now.
Uh
Oh.
it's tough. I do think wrestling with perfectionism, I feel like perfectionism for me goes hand in hand with procrastination. Do you ever
Yeah,
experience that?
totally. Because it's a reason not to get started if you haven't planned it perfectly or you know it's not going to be perfect. Does that prevent you from doing things you've been wanting to do?
It used to more. It definitely still does to an extent, but it's what you were saying from not Dream Big. Big Dream? Big what is it?
Big magic.
Big Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of that. It's like I have to go halfway. If I don't make the thing ever, I'm shooting myself in the foot way more than if I was, you know, actually doing
So
a thing. I'm never going to
true.
do it perfectly. I'm never going to do anything perfectly.
Right. And we know from evidence, empirical evidence, that when we put something out, something can happen. But if we hide it to ourselves, like nothing can happen. We have to put it out for things to happen. Even if we think it's not perfect, other people can appreciate something about it. But I feel like since my 20s, and huh, I was so willing to put stuff out there and not care about being judged about it, like put out a shitty short film and just be like, well, yeah, at least I had the follow through to make a short film and be proud of that and put it out. And now, I don't know, I feel like because we've gotten better and we also are around so many professionals who are such a high level that like we know what good work is. So if we don't put out good work, or if I know I'm not going to write this up to my taste level, I don't want to put it out because I don't want people thinking that I judge this as great when I could do better, or like with a team of writers and all the time in the world I could do better. It's like I want a disclaimer on there of like, guys, I was trying to just make this and put it out there. It's not the best it could be, but like no one gets that disclaimer. It's judged once it's out there. And yeah, that's been like cowing me since I have gotten deeper into it and felt more professional pressure.
Mhm.
Does that does that resonate at all?
It definitely resonates and I'm um getting stuck on this thing cuz right now I'm listening to a self-help book.
Uh-huh. Don't worry, she's not gonna lie and say she
No,
reads.
that's true. When I brag about my reading, it will be because I'm reading some thriller or World War II historic fiction or whatever it
Yeah.
is, something for funsies. But I'm listening to this book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman,
Haven't heard of it.
and it's funny because I feel like initially you pick it up thinking, oh, this is going to help me with time management, and that we're all trying to just master time management at the end
Right.
of the day. And I'm not quite finished with it, but for the most part, it's actually a book about how there's no such thing as time management. And so it's kind of like freeing me from the bonds of, oh, I thought I was going to read this and it was going to be like, well, wake up at 7
Yeah,
a.m.
here's a
and do
life
your
hack.
creative work until 10 a.m. because
Yep.
that's when these waves work in your brain and da 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 da. And instead, the thing that made me think about bringing this up is because you said, oh, if I had writers and I had all the time in the world, and the book dispels the illusion of having all the time in the world or even having any set amount of time, because time is not actually a commodity, right? So
Yeah.
you can hypothetically say, oh, I have 3 hours tomorrow. No, you don't. You think you have 3 hours tomorrow, but there might be a car accident that blocks your way of getting home and now you're late half an hour, or some emergency could come up. Like, you never actually have time as
Yeah.
the commodity. It's
Time is
always
no one's bitch.
no. It's so true. And that's been like a really freeing thing. And another thing the book talks about is how you actually should settle, and that settling has this like nasty connotation to it, but there's things you're actually genuinely missing out on if you don't just settle on certain
I
things.
do love that. Oh,
I love that. I have
oh,
another
that's
quote.
so good. Bring me the quotes.
She comes
Settle.
prepared. She don't show up to
And
Spotify
it's
without
typed.
doing her homework. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, because this is from the book. Okay. Um, Productivity is a trap. Becoming more efficient just makes you more rushed, and trying to clear the decks simply makes them fill up again faster. Nobody in the history of humanity has ever achieved work-life balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. That's the premise of the book.
I love that because that's what I gather every time I like practically strangle someone to like get answers out of how they do it because they seem like they're doing it. And then it's just like there's no secret, there's no hack, there's no brain chemical reishi mushroom formula
Nope.
mix I'm missing out on. Like, there's literally no secret. You just do the best you can. And yeah,
It's so freeing. I
it
love it.
is kind of freeing to be like, yeah, I don't have to keep searching for answers. The answer is there's no answer. You just do what you're going to do and be happy with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Productivity is what is it? Is a myth or is a.
Is flew further under the chair this time. Productivity is a trap.
Productivity
The
is a
more efficient
trap.
you become, the more shit people expect you to do, which is so true at most jobs. It's like what I was saying about my corporate
Three
job
hours
earlier.
done. Yeah.
But then if you're too efficient, they think they can just give you more. And I
Yeah.
feel this way with email. If I respond to emails too fast, it turns into damn whack-a-mole. I answer one email, two more come in. So I'm like, I'm just not going to answer this that
Or they
quickly.
think they have your attention and
Yep.
you're like, no, 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 I can't answer your next one that fast. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That just happened to me last week with like setting up something for this website. I was emailing back and forth. I finished this thing. I respond that I finished it. Like, this is checked off my to-do list. And
Yep.
5 minutes later, oh, do these two other things. Like, well, I'm not going to do them right now because then you're going to keep emailing me about
Yeah.
it.
Oh. Having to even like put up that pretense, I don't know, just like fake when you have to answer things back just to protect your time and keep those boundaries.
There's so much guilt when we set boundaries, which is so debilitating because we're supposed to be getting good at setting boundaries. And yet, I feel like, you put do not disturb on your phone and all of a sudden you're like the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I find, and who knows if this is just an LA bubble thing or if it is all of America or whatever, but or corporate or I don't know. Work life. The people who seem to cheer on boundary setting the loudest are often the worst violators.
Yes.
Like every manager I've had or even considered or not, no, this is not true to say. A few managers, a few acting teachers, anyone who's supposed to be teaching me a craft and then putting the blame on me if I don't get great at it or get success by saying like I didn't put the work in, and is saying, you should be setting boundaries like protect your mental health, get your sleep, self-care, but also you need to be doing 6 hours of rehearsal a day even on scenes that you don't actually have to do, and also go to 4 mics and be doing this writing practice and be showing up to this voluntary thing just to learn and better yourself. And then I say, okay, actually I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Oh, no, 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 by all means then save yourself. Or I will kill myself if I do that much. Oh, well, then by all means, take a rest, take a rest. But you should be doing all those things still.
But if you come to them outside of their quote unquote office hours, then you're
Oh,
disrespecting their boundaries.
oh, yeah.
It's tough, and I have considered myself someone who's really good at boundaries in certain ways, but not in being accessible. Like, I'm good at, I think, cutting people out sounds a little bit vicious, But if I'm just not vibing with someone, I am so okay with like walking away from a relationship, being like, I let this go, I release this, it's not for me. Let's like a breakup. I'm certainly better about it now than I was when I was younger and flooded with hormones all the time. And now it's kind of like, you know what? If this was really for me, this wouldn't even be the situation. I wouldn't even be like, you wouldn't be
Right.
walking away from me if you were for me.
Right.
So I'm good about those kinds of boundaries, but I'm certainly not good at like, my mom called 20 minutes ago. I'm like, "Oh my god, she thinks I'm dead in a gutter cuz I didn't answer the phone." So that's where I
Because you
struggle.
usually answer her immediately.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the situation. It's easier to set boundaries in some areas than others. And I know that like certain guys, before the guy I'm dating now, like the slightest thing, if it just seemed disrespectful or whatever to me or violated any boundaries, I was like, easy enough, you're gone. Like, I love myself so much. I respect myself too much to be brought down by that. And then, like, sometimes you meet people who test your boundaries and you're like, okay, because I really want this. Or, I don't know, even in stand up, like, it's hard to maintain your boundaries when there's so many people willing to not have those boundaries. It's like watching the guy you like go for the easier girl because you're gonna make him work for it a little bit more just to show that he's into you. And then if he doesn't put the work in and wants to just go for the easy lay, you're like, ah, god damn it, that could have been me. I know I don't really want the guy who wants to go for the easier thing, but also like it could have been me if I just didn't have these damn boundaries.
It's true. Would you say that like being in a relationship helps your artistic flow? Would you say that it like feeds you cuz I'm really bad at dating. I don't really date a lot
hmm
and I mask it as protecting my energy, but it's really just I'm just fed up. I'm just fed up with what the scene is. I'm not quite at the 4B stage of it. Do you know about that?
No.
Oh, 4B is this movement in Japan where women are like, we don't talk to men, we don't sleep with men, we don't marry men, we don't do anything. And I think they're down to like one baby per 100 couples right now or per 100 people because of this 4B movement and just this rejection of men. And at the same time, I also feel like
It's Lysistrata.
it. There's there are wonderful men in the world. I
Yes.
know them. I have friends who have wonderful partners, but in my experience, I've come across a lot of guys where I'm like, this is your fault. If you don't want to be single, like act better. Stop acting a damn fool
Yeah.
because now women who support themselves financially and have rich relationships with their friends, have platonic love in their lives, they don't want to put up with it anymore. So there's
Yeah.
this like I saw a comment that said men are in the denial stage of grief right now at the fact that women
Yes.
don't want to put up with the bullshit. And unfortunately, I kind of just jump to this conclusion that everyone who I allow in is just going to bring that same bullshit to my life. So, like, you found someone who's not bringing bullshit to your life. How open were you to love before you found it? Or were you, like, also dealing with fucking a revolving door of douchebags?
Well, that's what's been making it so maddening that and make me second my guess myself, my boundaries, everything, because and be willing to adjust because he is an amazing guy. So I'm like, God, if it is this difficult, even with someone truly amazing, relationships really are hard, like inherently, because yeah, it was easy to get rid of the revolving door of douchebags because then I could just have an excuse at any point of just like, no, you're not treating me how I deserve. Well, then when someone comes along who treats you how you deserve, you're like, I guess I don't have that excuse anymore. What's the real reason I don't want to be with you? And it's like, yeah, you're vulnerable. You show parts of yourself that you're like, if I weren't with anyone, no one would see this ugly part of myself. They would believe I'm just a wonderful human, and you're the only person who's seen me like cry at the stove before. And like I hate that someone can see that, and I wasn't. I wouldn't have been open to it if the pandemic hadn't happened.
Mm.
I fell for him hard. We were starting to date, and then it was coming up to that like, okay, how do I fit you in time wise? The kind of same thing that had happened in other relationships. And then the pandemic hit. So I had time to explore it since I couldn't do stand up. And I don't know that we would have gotten this far without the pandemic happening because I might have made the alternate choice of just like, no, I want my space, my time. It, it, affect, I don't know, being in a relationship gives you certain material. because it's relatable to like the sweeping audiences of heterosexual couples that can understand the guy versus girl in a dating situation, I don't know, material I'm bringing. So it's easy to have some hokey, more generic stuff, but like I'm sure I would have material without it as well. So I'm not with them just for the material.
Yeah. I definitely feel like I lack the material, but that's not why I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to get in a relationship. Like, love would be nice. However, I'm so comfortable. I've been single for such a long time, and I
Yeah.
have my systems.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
our conversation's coming full circle of like, I can do morning pages if I want. I have my routine and I have my dog, and
Yeah.
I would be the person that would then be entertaining whoever is waking up with me. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
just gonna, like you said, close the door in his face and be like, well, I have to meditate and I have to do my gua sha for 10 minutes. So I guess you need to wait for me.
Because when you do that, which I have tried to be like, okay, you know what? You're right. This is a me thing. I'm not asking for what I need. So I should just do these things, go about my day as if you're not interfering or drawing attention from me. And fuck, what was my point?
Well, it
Even when
severs
you
connection.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Even if you're like, no, I can still. I stopped playing soccer. I quit the band, which I don't. It takes time, and there's no denying that like I would do different things that I enjoy if I weren't with him, just because it takes a chunk of your
Hmm.
time and to be like, fuck it, I'm gonna do all the things I enjoy as if you weren't here. Then it's kind of like, well, what are you together for if you're
Yeah.
not nurturing the relationship? And like, it feels very lonely when I do that because I feel like I'm setting him at a distance. And like, yeah, it just makes it seem like I can't have both because,
Yeah, you're already choosing to be in a relationship. You're not going to, if you're choosing to be in a relationship, you're going to show up to it
yeah,
wholeheartedly. You're not going
yeah.
to show up to it poorly.
And have
So
this
it's one
like
or the
ships in
other.
the night. Hey, how's it going? Okay, bye. Like, it just feels so empty and pointless if it comes to that. Yeah.
That's the thing that I struggle. Granted, I have not had that person come into my life who's going to make me rethink those systems yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a timing issue, I think. And it's also that I just blatantly don't date issue.
It's it's been worth it. It's been a wild ride to truly be in love and like feel someone make me that crazy in both a good and a bad way, but I don't know. It's an experience. If you ever find someone, it's worth going on the ride. I say yes to the ride. Who knows where it's going to go, but yeah, I'm just trying to take more responsibility for my career now instead of like, oh, cuz I took this detour, that's why I haven't made it.
But no, it's part of living a whole life.
Yeah,
It's not preventing you from anything, from
right.
making it. I did want to talk to you about this. Um, so horse girl stuff. I don't know if
Ha!
horse girl stuff was how I was gonna mention it, but I'm just like
No, it's just
impressed.
a segment on every episode,
Yeah,
and no one
horse
else
girl
gets
segment.
it.
My last guest had no idea what I was talking about.
Omid's like, what?
But yeah, talk to me about your experience with horses and growing up with them, and what is your bond like with these majestic creatures?
Oh my god, I'm an idiot because like I was gonna go into horse training and then like I basically when I found stand up and started writing horse material, it was because like I was thinking somehow someone's gonna offer me a horse based on this instead of me ever having to pay for a horse. I should
That's
have
not
gone.
completely out of the
It's not
realm.
completely out of the realm when you hear comedians talk about their favorite show and then suddenly they're on it.
Hmm.
Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I should have just like gone into horses if I wanted to be around horses. I think at this point it'd be like working at Disneyland where it's like taking something I enjoy and being like, this is too deep on the inside. I think there were multiple reasons that I walked away from it. Some stuff with my mom, whereas like she was kind of my anchor in the horse community, and then
The
r-
horse
the
community.
horse community, just the horses. I put on a horse suit like Jane Goodall, and no, that's what am I thinking of the guy who lived with? Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm an idiot. I was really serious into horses growing up. Big part of my identity. Like I was weird horse girl because I was so in love with them. Even like a shaman one time was like, "There's like serious energy between you and horses. Like it's meant to
Whoa.
be." And I was like, "I don't know what that means, dude, but okay." Uh, I just love. There's I don't know, I just feel so at peace and calm around them, and I loved competing and showing them and getting really good because it was one of the really rewarding, like, meritocracies before going into a world at 18 where there were seeming none. Like, people could get ahead just by knowing someone or being rich or, you know, I don't know, some scheming, some connection around, whereas, like, in the horse show ring, if everyone saw that this person with the big fancy horse, like, had a big mistake, occasionally a judge would turn a blind eye, but, like, if everyone can see it, it was pretty even playing ground, and I was gonna beat that person if that happened, or, you know, I enjoyed the work I put in paid off, and I haven't found anything that direct of a link since, and I think that's something I miss about it, of just knowing that, like, when I worked hard at that, it paid off for me. So
Hmm.
I think of it nostalgically of like, horses, a time when I was good at something and it mattered to me to make it a priority because that's why I was really good.
Are you still with them in any capacity? Do you still ride or like go to barns?
I have horse friends that when I visit will still let me ride their horses, which is amazingly nice of them. Because I've been doing the numbers the past couple years, just every so often I get on a
Hmm.
lark like, could this happen? Could I lease a horse? Could I make it fit in my life? And then either financially or just time wise, it's a big commitment. And I realized, okay, maybe I was just very lucky as a kid to get to do this. And like, maybe that's past. Who knows? We'll see. TBD.
I love that. It's just so. I'm sad that I'm not more connected with them because they're so beautiful. And I rode a little bit in college, not in any kind of
Still, you've been
serious
on a
way.
horse.
I've been on a few horses, but then this happened. I was in Italy a few years ago. You know, those horses that just kind of take people around the city,
Yeah,
like, which I know is like a form of abuse, right?
they can treat them well. It's like there's a debate on all of it. It's
Yeah, I
how you
figured.
treat them, and there's maybe parts that are uncomfortable for them if they're not. Yeah, there can
Hmm.
be abusive situations, or they can be done well. Go
Yeah.
on. I'm not
So
judging you for it.
I walk up to one of these horses. I was not riding in the carriage, but I know you're supposed to come to them with calm energy and that they can sense what you're bringing to the table, and I
Yeah.
thought I was doing all the things right. I went to pet its nose and it bit me.
Ooh, it was
So,
probably sick of being pet,
probably. Yeah,
or
but
was
now
never
I'm
so.
nervous. Now I don't know that
Aw,
I've even been around a horse since that
but
happened.
your hand, your
My
arm.
hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah.
Were you
It
too
didn't break
shocked to
skin,
do?
but I was
It
shocked. It
hurts.
definitely hurt, and it was just scary because it's like, what, they're 1,000 pounds?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What else could it have done to me?
Mhm.
Yeah, they can be dangerous. I'm so sorry that happened.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
take for granted that they're powerful and scary.
Mhm.
It is insane the amount of power we can wield over them just from like basic things we've developed, banking on their fear of us over them knowing their size.
Yeah.
Like they could kill us all if they wanted
Oh,
to.
easily. They just kick you and you're done, but
Done.
that's why I wanna ask you, like, what do you have tips for approaching
For
horses?
Brian.
When yeah, I need to know.
You know what? The one thing I appreciate about horses that like I love dogs, I love cats, but I am wary in like approaching a strange dog or strange cat because I feel like they can turn on you so fast without showing what they're thinking. Whereas horses, I feel like can still do stuff out of nowhere, but you watch their ears, and if they're pointing forward and they're just kind of like waggling around, they're listening to things, they're paying attention, they're generally in a good mood. When they pin their ears back, that's when they're threatening you. So did he have any indication of that?
I didn't
Probably
know
not. He was
this, so
probably
I couldn't
so
have known.
fast.
I couldn't have known.
Yeah, if a horse is pinning his ears back at
Mhm.
you, that's just like, okay, bud, I'll stay away. Doesn't want you there. But other than that, you have no way of knowing if you just walk up to a random horse and he seems okay and then does something. My sister's horse is like that, where he'll just seem nice and then like a snake just strike.
Oh.
And that's why he's an asshole, and we know that about him. We tell all the little girls to stay away from him at the barn because there's just no way of knowing. But yeah, I hope that never happens to you again.
Me too, because I
Oh,
love that they're beautiful. I don't want to. I had one other story. So when I went riding in college, I went with like a group, and we were just going through like a field farm situation, and my helmet was too big on me. and I'm riding on this horse,
Oh.
and I didn't have pockets or something, so my phone was like tucked in my bra or
Yeah.
whatever. And we're going along, not fast, not running, nothing. And the horse steps in like a divot or something, and her leg goes down, and it
Yeah.
freaks her out, and she just takes off running. Meanwhile, my helmet, which is too big, slides down and
No! I
covers my
knew
face.
it! You're just blindly
And I'm
taking
blindly like trying to hold my phone so it doesn't get stomped and doesn't go flying, and then like pulling on the reins with every ounce of strength that I have. Finally, she stops. I'm like, I'm alive. I walk back to the group. I had been there with my friend Allie, and I go, whew, I'm okay, Allie. Like, I'm good. I heard you screaming. And she's like, that was you. You were screaming.
Really?
I hallucinated that she was screaming and that I was just like
out of
keeping
body.
it together.
Which it definitely is the energy you want when a horse is panicking. Just, add on to it.
Yeah.
I remember one of my scariest times on a horse. I was riding side saddle for a show. And I was on this horse who just like was so overshown. He like did not want to be there. He would take off, try to do anything to get me off of and everything. He was so sour on people because he had just been pushed to the limit. So my mom, of course, bought this horse that was like gonna win me everything because look, he already has an incredible show record. So they put me in side saddle class where you're tied to the saddle. I have one leg wrapped around. It's like a special saddle. So you're really like hooked in there. There's no easy dismount. I'm tied to the saddle. I have like a skirt and pants and like it is just a nightmare to unwind. And this horse starts going over backwards and my mom in the stands up and just like chicken squawk screams. Like, first of all, you did this to me. You put me in this situation. But second of all, don't make it worse. You're just going to scare him more. Fucking, yeah. Scary horse moments.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Maxi Witrak, what do you have coming up?
If you follow me on Instagram at MadMaxi, MADDMAXI, I will let you guys know when I have another show of Pony Club coming up at the Comedy
Yeah,
Store.
you're going to have more shows at the
I
Comedy
hope
Store.
to. No dates are set yet because a festival is coming into town that's taking up all the venues. But by the time this episode posts, follow me and I might have a date.
Amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. What a delight.
Thanks for hanging.
Of course.
Talking
All right.
self-help.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Nice. That looks good.